This is the largest bowl I've ever made. It measures 15 inches in diameter and 9 inches in height. Now, it took me 3 days to make this. A day to glue up all the individual pieces. This is made up of 150 different individual pieces glued up together. And then it took me another 2 days to turn it on the lathe and sand and finish this. Now, if you're wondering why I made this, well, there's only one thing we love more than jhanmuri here, and that's biryani. So this is going to be my new biryani bowl. Now let me show you how I made this. I'm cutting out pieces from 2.5-inch mahogany and birchwood planks, cut at a 15-degree angle. I'm going to need 150 of these individual pieces to complete this segmented wooden bowl. With all the pieces cut, I'm gluing them together, alternating between a birchwood and a mahogany piece. Now I don't have a circular clamp, and this COVID-19 lockdown means I can't go out and buy any. So instead I made this jig out of plywood, and I'll be using my regular bar clamps to add some pressure. After about 15 minutes, the wood glue has dried. I'm using my chisel here to scrape off any of the excess wood glue. Then it's time to repeat the process. I'm going to need 10 of these rings, so it's a long and slow process. Next I head to the planer to even out the thickness of these rings. I will be gluing these individual rings together, so an even thickness will make sure that there are no gaps in between these rings. Now it's time for the last glue up. I'm gluing these rings 3 at a time to prevent them from moving around too much under the clamping pressure. Once all 10 rings have been glued together, the blank for my bowl is now ready. After screwing in the face plate, I'm carrying this big ass bowl to my lathe for shaping. Now this bowl is way too big for my lathe, so I had to turn the motor around and mount it on the outside. It's dangerous, so the first thing to do is to see if it holds. Well, it seems to hold, so I'm going to start shaping by running some roughing passes on the outside. I'm using a spindle gouge first, and since this is going to be a very large bowl, I can be pretty aggressive with my roughing passes. The bowl will curve inward towards the top and the bottom. So I'm using a pencil to mark out an approximate center area, and I'll continue cutting towards the top and the bottom. I wish I had a bigger spindle gouge so I could remove wood from this large bowl much faster. And that reminds me, if I have to make bowls in this size, I'll probably have to go shopping for tools. But that's okay, it's the only kind of shopping I like. I'm using a skew chisel to clean up the ridges and any unevenness left on the surface. And I also want to add a raised lip to the top of the bowl so that it's easy to carry around. Shaping the outside of this large bowl is complete. And now comes the more difficult part, carving the inside. I've been dreading shaping the inside of this bowl because first of all, since this bowl is mounted on the outside, I don't have the right tool rest for this. I made a makeshift one out of wood, but it's obviously not as sturdy as a cast iron tool rest that comes with the lathe. Now the outside of the bowl is much smaller because the shaping is complete and all the excess wood has been removed. So instead I decided to go back to the original configuration of the lathe and mount the bowl on the inside. This makes it a lot easier to work on the inside of the bowl. There's still a lot of wood left on the inside, so it's going to be slow, steady passes with the skew chisel. It's at this point I started wondering if I really should have made a bowl this big. Next time, maybe fewer layers of wood and a smaller size. Next morning, I woke up to cyclonic rain and power cuts, and I still had some work left on shaping the inside of the bowl. I used a skew chisel to thin out the walls and a round nose chisel to run cleanup passes. This worked really well, and I made quick work of the rest of the shaping of the insides of the bowl. With all the shaping work finally complete, it was time to sand and apply a finish. I started with 80 grit sandpaper and worked my way all the way up to 400 grit. For the finish, I'm using a water-based food-safe finish made by ICA. Now, this stuff is non-solvent based and does not leave any smell and is completely safe for surfaces which come into contact with food items. Once the polish dries, it's time to show off my super large bowl. Making this bowl was a lot of effort, but in the end, the result turned out to be pretty sweet. What do you think? There's just one thing left to do. After unscrewing the faceplate, I used a hammer and chisel to remove the attached block and sanded the bottom smooth. I used the same food-safe polish on the bottom, and with that, my super large segmented wooden bowl made from 150 different wooden pieces is finally ready. So I went ahead and made another one, only this time slightly bigger. What would you use these bowls for? Let me know in the comments below.